this is Amy with Pick Your Stitch. Today we're going to talk about the Opal 650. There are 3 Opals in this line. There's the 650, the 670, and the 690Q. Like I said, today we'll talk about the 650, and it's the base model of that line. So let's look at what feet come with this. Okay, this is the A foot, and this is the one that comes on your machine, and it's for your straight stitch. So it's the one you'll use a lot if you're a quilter and you're going to piece things together. Then you've got the B foot, which is used when you're doing decorative stitches. The C foot, that's your manual buttonhole foot. The D foot is your blind hem, and your E foot is this really cool zipper foot. Then we have the J foot, which is for seam overcasting and overcasting stitches. So then the last foot that comes with this model is the one-step buttonhole foot. It has this plug-in, so it's a sensor, and check back for another video later and we'll go over how to use this sensor one-hole button foot. The Opal line of machines have about an 8-inch throat space, beautiful LED lighting, and the exclusive stitch advisor. So let's go over and talk about that. Okay, we're going to explore the function panel. We're not going to talk about everything today, but we'll do some of the basics. So this is where we're going to start, and this is where you pick your fabric type. So you can see it's on woven light right now. If I go into the B, that is your woven medium. Your C, which is your woven heavy. D, which is your stretch light. E is your stretch medium. F is your stretch heavy. Now your G is when you get into like a leather vinyl fabric. So it's going to tell you different settings based on that different kind of fabric. All right, so we are in the woven medium menu, and so let's talk about what these entries around the side mean. The first one here is what it's recommending for your needle. So this is recommending an 80 size needle, and over here you have an up arrow, and that's for when you turn needle up and needle down on. So you can see that the arrow changes up or down. And you know the needle down feature, when you have that on, that means when you stop sewing, it's going to stop with your needle down. Okay, the next you have in through here is your thread tension range. Your thread tension is right over here. So you can, pick through that range between 4 and 5 for your thread tension. Now, down here, it's telling you what foot to use. And in this case, it's telling you that you need the basic utility foot A, because look at that, we're doing a straight stitch. Then over here, this is your speed. So right now, the speed is at the highest setting. If I come over here and I click minus, that slows down my speed or raises it up again. And that speed control works when you do the stop-start button. It also works with your foot pedal to control your speed when you're using that. All right, then up here again, this is the type of fabric we have. This right here, you see the foot, the number 5 is telling you what your presser foot pressure should be. So you'll see when if you're looking through these, you will see that this is going to tell you different presser foot pressures based on what kind of fabric and stitches you're doing. This is the stitch number. So I am in the 1 grouping, and this is stitch number 1. And then it illustrates that stitch for you right down here. Then over here you have your stitch length. This is what they will put in as your default, again based on your fabric and your stitch. And this right here, when you're on a straight stitch, allows you to change your needle position. So if you go this way, it's bringing it to the right, and if you go this way, it's bringing it to the left. I love this feature because if you bring it over just a little bit, that helps you do a scant 1/4 inch. So you select your stitch grouping here, and so these are the 4 groupings. The heart is where you save your favorites. So there's 160 stitches built into this, and so you've got to be able to go within these groupings to get to the stitch that you want. So let me show you that. Okay, so here I am I clicked into the stitch menu, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So to scroll between those, I'm going to pick this, hit this button back and forth, and I'm going to go to the decorative stitch grouping. So right now it knows I'm in the 4 grouping, so all I have to do now is pick your stitch from the list up here. So I'm going to choose stitch 8 within the 4 grouping. And there it goes. It brings me down to the 8. All right, so now going back to these items, it's still telling me the same, same needle. My tension is the same, my foot pressure, but this time that comes up because it's telling you it needs stabilizing. This time it tells you need stabilizer because this stitch does more back and forth motion. All right, and again here, this is grouping 4 decorative stitches, stitch 8. Now it's telling me I need the B foot. So again, it's telling you that utility foot A is not going to do it. You need the B foot here so that you'll get the best results. So over here, you've got your default stitch width, and here you've got your default stitch length. If you can adjust these, you can press the plus or the minus. It's going to beep at you if this is the biggest range that you can be at. As you can see, as I'm decreasing this, the width of your design is shrinking. Now over here, the length of my stitch then gets bigger. And I don't like that, so I'm going to go back to the default, and it's the default when there is not shading around it. And so I'm going to go back to the default here, which I think was 7. All right, so there's one feature that I just want to talk about differently here. Because this is a decorative stitch, this is a stitch, and it's just going to keep going with that stitch. Over here, you've got a stop button. So when you're stitching and you click stop, it's going to continue doing your entire stitch, and then it will stop. That's a great feature. Now I'm going to go over to section G, your leather and vinyl fabric, and it's going to show you some different values in here that we haven't talked about yet. All right, so in this case, it's telling me that a 90 stretch needle would be good. This time it's saying your presser foot pressure is a 4, your stabilizer, and here's a new indicator. This is for the glide strips that come with your machine. So what these are is these are glide strips that come with your machine. What you will do is you will take the backing off, and you will attach these strips onto your presser foot so that when you're going over a leather or a vinyl, it's riding along that fabric and it's not going to catch or slow down because it's got the glide strip on it. So that's what that is suggesting right there. That's the thing. That's one thing that is different when you go into this particular fabric. So let's just go back and do one thing again so you can see it. If you want to go in and change your stitch, you would go to your groupings, and again you would click through back and forth to get to the grouping that you want. This is another decorative grouping, so I'm going to pick stitch 4 this time. And now this stitch comes up, it gives you the same information you need, stabilizer and the glide. Okay, so if you want to now pick a stitch in this region that has it's number 18, you need to quickly press to get to 18, because if you do it slowly, it'll just go to 1, so that's why you have to do it quickly, your sequence, to get to a 2-digit stitch. So this is all for today. This is the basics of your Opal 650. Watch for other videos where we'll do things using like your sensor one-step buttonhole, programming, which will allow you to put different stitches or fonts, because this does have fonts, to put them in a program so that they can stitch out in a certain order. Or for emotion, this machine does have the ability to lower the feed dogs, so we'll talk about what you would do with free motion. So again, those are the basics for today. So thank you for joining Friday Features, and we'll see you again next week.